If you're thinking about moving to Austin, Texas, one of the worst things that you can do is pick up your family, move here, just to realize you moved to the wrong spot, okay? So what I'm gonna do in today's video is we're gonna jump into my screen, we're gonna jump into Google Maps here, and I am gonna give you a giant detailed tour of North Austin, the suburbs. We're gonna talk about, I'm gonna give you a lay of the land. We're gonna talk about the best places to live. We're gonna talk about the pros and some cons of each of those areas. And whenever and wherever possible, I'm also gonna talk to you about pricing in each one of those areas, in each one of those suburbs. Okay, so look, I say this all the time, but Austin and the Austin area is not a perfect city. None of these suburbs, none of these areas are perfect areas, but I do believe that there is a perfect area for you. So like personally, like I love the Austin area, but I don't love every single part of the Austin area. So like, I wanna know from you, like if you're thinking about moving to the area, we wanna know who you are, what's your lifestyle, what are some things you love, what are some things that you hate, and we can point you to the right area, the right suburb, the right neighborhood, and even sometimes the right house that's a perfect fit for you, okay? So without further ado, let's go ahead, jump into the map here. And look, I've done an entire Austin area map tour. I've done a South Austin map tour, Central Austin map tour. Today, we're really just gonna be focusing on North Austin and the North Austin suburbs, okay? So, jumping into the map, what you're looking at right now, this is just like anything that could be considered like the greater Austin area, okay? Now, we go all the way from Georgetown up here in the north, all the way down to San Marcos here in the south, Bastrop to the east, Dripping Springs in the west. Anything outside of that kind of box or that circle, I would go ahead and say that stuff would not be in the Austin area. So we're only gonna focus what's in that area in the north, okay? So what is considered the north in Austin? I am so glad you asked. So I'm gonna zoom in here and I'm gonna use my trusty little annotation tool, and heads up, you're gonna see me drawing all over this map like a first grader. Okay, so way up here in the northwest of my map is Lake Travis, and flowing out of Lake Travis is what's called the Colorado River, okay? And then way over here between Loop 360 and Loop 1, also called Mopac, it turns into what we call Lake Austin. And right here in between Mopac or Loop 1 and I-35 is Town Lake, and then flowing out toward Bastrop, it turns back into the Colorado River, okay? So we as Austinites, we take anything that is north of the Colorado River or Town Lake or Lake Austin, anything north of that is gonna be considered North Austin, and anything south of that is gonna be considered South Austin. So I always say that like, one of the worst things you can do is move to North Austin if you're a South Austin person, or move to South Austin if you're a North Austin person. Now, what the heck am I talking about? Okay, you gotta know this about Austin, okay? So historically speaking, people in North Austin were kind of more white collar, business people, attorneys, doctors. It's where the University of Texas is, so it's a lot more kind of intellectual, kind of like uppity vibes, right? That's kind of negative. I don't really mean that to be negative. And then anything south of the river, South Austin, people were seen as a lot more kind of gritty, blue collar, manufacturing jobs, even like artists, creatives, like it was a very like artsy vibe, but also kind of rough down there. Now, fast forward 50, 60, 70 years, and do we still see those dynamics in Austin in 2025? Yes, we do, okay? It's very subtle, but it's definitely something that once you spend some time here, if you're here for a couple weeks and you're really getting into Austin, like you're gonna notice that like, up north, it's interesting. The Capitol's up there, the University of Texas is up there, it's like the whole tech hub, like a lot of tech companies have their headquarters up there, like Apple, Facebook, Dell, Indeed, IBM, Amazon. Like, you're gonna see a lot of tech growth, tech employees working up there. So again, a little bit more white collar stuff. And then in South Austin, it's not as obvious as it was 50, 60, 70 years ago, but still in South Austin, you're gonna see a lot more breweries, first of all. You're gonna see a lot more kind of manufacturing, art, creative, design vibes down there. And I really do still think that North-South Austin dynamic is like alive and well in Austin right now in 2025. And so I still have people, like friends who live in North Austin, who are like, they have to move or they need to move or they want to move, and they're like, I'm not moving south of the river, no way. And then I know a lot of people right now who live in South Austin who are just like, I would never live north of the river. Why would I do that? That's like a different breed of people, okay? So, just so you know, anything north of the Colorado River, North Austin, anything south is South Austin. The more you know. Okay, so now I'm gonna zoom out a little bit, and let's again identify like, what are we gonna talk about in this video? Okay, so let me get my little drawing tool again. And we are not gonna go north of Georgetown. Hutto is about as far east as we're gonna go, although I do have a treat for you at the end of the video, so definitely stick around for that. And then Liberty Hill, I would say, is the farthest northwest we're gonna go. And then we're even gonna get a little bit into just kind of some north central Austin. So anywhere here that you see that I'm drawing, this is what we're gonna cover in this video. Okay, so before we jump into any of these suburbs, let's talk about the main roads, because Austin has a really funky highway road system. And like, God, I always tell people that, like, I don't know why Austin's leadership does this, but like every park, every river, every landmark has like 4 to 6 different names for it, okay? So if you're coming here for a visit or you're watching this trying to figure out where you want to live, I want you to see the main roads, the main arteries that you're going to be using, but also some of these are roads that you're going to want to stay away from and that we're going to want to like encourage you to move away from whenever we help you find a home here, okay? So I would say the first road that you need to know about in North Austin is I-35. So I-35 kind of runs straight out of Dallas, way up north. It runs through Georgetown, Round Rock, Pflugerville, and it runs right essentially through downtown Austin, and it takes you all the way down to San Antonio, okay? Now, here's the deal. I always say that I think I-35 was actually invented by Satan himself. Lately, like, it does not matter what time of the day you are driving in and around the Austin area, there's always going to be terrible traffic on I-35. So, you heard it here. Do whatever you can to live as far away from I-35 as possible, or at least we need to help you find out if there's a way to completely bypass or avoid I-35 altogether, especially if you've got to commute in and out of downtown. We can definitely help you out with that, okay? But that's gonna be kind of the main north-south thoroughfare in and out of Austin, okay? The second road that you're gonna need to know about is called Loop 1. And Loop 1 is one of those roads that's what it says here. You see it right there. There's a big old 1 with a loop around it, but no one in Austin calls it Loop 1. We always call it MOPAC, M-O-P-A-C, okay? That's short for Missouri Pacific, and the reason it's called that is because there's a railway called the Missouri Pacific Railway that runs north-south in and out of Austin, all right? And MOPAC is another one of those north-south thoroughfares, but you can see it only goes up to this toll road 45 right here, so I-35 will get you way up to Georgetown and MOPAC won't. If you want to take MOPAC to Georgetown, you're going to have to hop over on 45 and then hop up 35, okay? Now, MOPAC, I would say, is about 90% as bad as I-35. There's this like common belief in the Austin area that MOPAC isn't as bad as I-35, but it is at least 9/10 as bad, okay? So again, that's probably a road that you're going to want to avoid if and when you can, all right? Another road that you're going to want to know about is called Highway 183. And you're in luck, folks, because here in Austin, we call that road Highway 183. and it kind of branches off here to 183A, but don't really worry about that. This is 183, and it takes you straight, like you come down from Liberty Hill, Leander, Cedar Park, Austin, and then it takes you down to Lockhart where there's some really good barbecue, but that's in South Austin. This is not a South Austin video. Okay, so 183, also terrible. The traffic, especially during rush hour, if you're going the way of traffic, is god awful, okay? And that's gonna come up as a major con with some of these suburbs in the Austin area. But again, just know all the roads that I have highlighted in red here, I-35, Mopac, and 183, you are gonna want to avoid those roads during rush hour, especially at all costs. All right, now I'm changing my color to blue here because the roads I'm about to show you are not nearly as bad. Okay, so the first road I wanna show you is a toll road, and it's called 130, and it essentially gets you from Georgetown all the way down here to South Austin. Whoops. It'll get you all the way down here into South Austin, and you can completely bypass I-35, Mopac, and 183. So what a lot of people will do, like if you live in Georgetown, you'll come all the way down 183 until you just absolutely have to get off to go to downtown, and you might get off at 290 right here and just pop in. Or like, let's say you live right here in Pflugerville, or maybe not, you don't live on the highway. Maybe you live right here in Pflugerville. Instead of going over to I-35, you might pop over to 130, take 130 all the way down and hop over 290. And it's like, I'm telling you, on a map, it looks like a way longer route. You can probably get there in 1/3 of the time by avoiding I-35, okay? So anywhere along I-35, you're living in Georgetown, Round Rock, Pflugerville, even North Austin sometimes, people will take toll road 130. Now you do have to pay tolls, they're not terrible, but people will take the toll road, whoop, and just kind of bypass I-35 right into Austin. So 130 is an area you're really gonna wanna know about. All right, on that note, another road that you're gonna wanna know about is 45, okay? So 45, kind of runs east-west, more or less, across North Austin. And this is another road that a lot of people use as an east-west thoroughfare. And it is definitely a road that if you live close to it, it can really come in handy. There are a lot of people who, maybe they work in Northeast Austin, but they live in Cedar Park, and they can just hop over right on I-35, hop down 130, and it's like no problem, okay? And one other road that I guess you should probably know about is called 29, and this is a road that a lot of people in Georgetown and Liberty Hill use a lot. Again, a very nice, rarely traffic on this road, east-west thoroughfare, and there are a lot of great kind of master plan community subdivisions right up in here with like beautiful views, beautiful trees, and they often use 45 to hop over to 183, or Highway 29 to hop over to 183, or Highway 29 to hop over to Toll Road 130. And my point here is that, yes, Austin has notoriously bad traffic, but if you know the good bypass roads to use, you can bypass a lot of the really terrible traffic. Oftentimes on those roads, you've got to pay a small toll, but I'm telling you, as a realtor who I've been driving all over Kingdom Come around the Austin area for over 11 years now, helping people buy and sell homes, and like, these toll roads are an absolute lifesaver sometimes. All right, so what you're looking at on the map right now is definitively North Austin, the North Austin suburbs, okay? So what I wanna do is I'm gonna really zoom in on maybe 7 or 8 of the absolute best places to live in North Austin. And look, if you want any more info about any of these areas, please do not hesitate to give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email. My team is amazing, and they would absolutely love to sit down with you and identify exactly which one of these areas is the best for you if you're thinking about moving to North Austin, okay? So the first place that we're gonna hit, the first suburb, is called Cedar Park, all right? Now let's zoom in on Cedar Park just a little bit. Cedar Park is just northwest of Austin. It's off of 183, and it's right in between Austin and another suburb called Leander, all right? Now, Cedar Park is a well-established suburb. Northwest Austin. It's known for top-rated schools. There's tons of parks and a lot of really great family-friendly neighborhoods. So, I mean, any type of person could love living in Cedar Park, but in my experience, like, it's a lot of families who have tech workers in the family who want really great schools, and they want good established neighborhoods. All right, so speaking of schools, if you live in Cedar Park, you're actually zoned to Leander ISD, and according to niche.com, Leander ISD is one of the top 5 neighborhoods. It might actually be number 2 in all of Central Texas, okay? And in some of those top neighborhoods, you're paying $1, $3, $5 million for a typical home. And spoiler alert, you are not gonna have to pay that much for a home in Cedar Park. So one of the big pros is excellent schools. Another big pro of Cedar Park is that it kind of goes along with the name Cedar Park, is that there are seriously dozens of great parks all over the place in this suburb, okay? One of my favorite that we've actually been out to film before is called Brushy Creek Lake Park. Let's see if we can get a little street view. Actually, I mean, look at that, just trees everywhere. Okay, so they've got this massive open area. There's this beautiful lake, like right off of the park. It's just fantastic. So I went out there, I saw people, I actually mountain biked out there with my kids, but you'll see people mountain biking, road biking, running, hiking, moms just walking the park with their kids in trailers, just kids playing at the playgrounds. Like, it is awesome. And when you're there, you're just like, I don't even feel like I'm in a city. I don't feel like I'm even in a suburb at all. It just feels like great natural fun. And you can see, like, look at all this green out in Cedar Park. I mean, these parks are just like absurd, and they are just so plentiful. Now, a couple neighborhoods that I definitely want to point out in Cedar Park are this Buttercup Creek, Twin Creeks, and Deer Creek Ranch. There it is, right in front of my face. Each of these neighborhoods, you can't really tell from this map, but each one of these neighborhoods has like a really great park in the neighborhood. You're right by Lakeline Park. You're super close to 183 and 45, so really convenient in terms of transportation. And if you look, like, if you live in Deer Creek Ranch or Twin Creeks, if you wait for the right home to come up and you let us find it for you, there's a really good chance you're gonna back up to this massive nature preserve. And like I am telling you, you feel like you are living out in the middle of nowhere, but you get all the conveniences of being in a great suburb. So those are some of my favorite neighborhoods in the Cedar Park area. Now, a couple of cons about Cedar Park are, if we take a look at the map here, there's almost no two ways about it. To go in and out of Cedar Park, you almost have to go 183. And I'm telling you, like, I have gotten caught on 183 during rush hour going with traffic, and it is horrendous, okay? And just the location where Cedar Park is placed, it just doesn't make sense to go over on 45 and then, like, there's no real way to get in and out of town to Austin except to go 183. And on that note, I've said this before in one of my Cedar Park pros and cons videos recently, but like, Cedar Park was never really meant to be like a suburb. It was never established as like, hey, we're starting a town called Cedar Park. It kind of just started as this area where, like, for people who thought Austin was getting too liberal and they were just trying to move out of town a little bit, but it was still like it's almost like a suburb of Austin, like a northern suburb of Austin. And then it kind of like developed a mind of its own, and it became what we now know as Cedar Park. So I would say another con of Cedar Park is it doesn't really have its own like identity, except for there are some huge neighborhoods with really beautiful parks. Like, there's no downtown Cedar Park. If you were to say, Barrett, meet me in Cedar Park, I'd be like, I don't really visualize like a central location in Cedar Park. So that's just something you're gonna wanna keep in mind. All right, the next suburb, and I'll zoom out just to give you a little bit of context here. So here's downtown Austin, where I'm at right now. The next suburb we're gonna chat about is called Leander. And so I know for a long time there, especially during COVID, Leander was like one of the top, it was like the top 1 or 2 fastest growing suburbs in all of the United States, which was totally crazy. And so there were tons of people moving out here. There still are people moving here for tech jobs who love living in Leander. So on that note, you just need to know in general, Leander is a booming suburb still with tons of like really, really top-notch master plan communities. Like I mentioned about Cedar Park, the schools in Leander ISD are absolutely world-class, and there's just really great value for new homes out there. Now, speaking of the schools, just because, you know, they're one of the top-rated schools, school districts according to niche.com, that does not mean every single school there is great. So if you love the idea of living in Leander, you love the idea of living in North Austin, you love the idea of having great schools for your kids, you need to let us know so that we can point you to the right neighborhoods that actually have those great schools, because not every neighborhood in Leander is zoned to great schools. So we would hate for you to move here, think you're gonna be in a great school, and then your kid's school just totally sucks. So in my experience, a lot of people who move out to Leander are kind of like growing families who want some good space. They want a bigger house for a great price. Now, I would say a couple of pros about Leander is that they have a lot of new construction available at relatively very affordable prices. In addition to that, you've also got the Cap Metro Light Rail, which is a train that goes from Leander down into downtown Austin with quite a few stops. And so a lot of people really like using that train, especially those people who work those tech jobs downtown. You can live in Leander, but like your commute to the train is really small. So it's really short, I guess. And you can work in the train because they got Wi-Fi on the train. And so a lot of people really enjoy that amenity of Leander. And on the flip side, I would say one of the cons of Leander is that if you're not using that light rail, your commute can be really intense, and not everyone wants to use the train. And so if you don't, your commute is just gonna suck, and there's really no two ways about it. Another con about Leander is just, you know, it's sad because like a pro is that there is a lot of great new development, but a con is that there's a lot of new development. So wherever you're living, especially if you're living in a new neighborhood, you're probably gonna you're gonna need to get used to a lot of construction noise for the better part of the next decade. And if you're thinking about buying in Leander, you're gonna wanna plan on at least spending around $350,000 to $550,000. But like, there are a lot of new, great, way bigger homes. Like if you're wanting like a, 4 or 5 bedroom, 3-4 bath home that's like over 3,000 square feet, you can probably get a great home in Leander, and you're gonna pay well into the 6, 7, 800,000s. There are even homes like way into the millions, even like the 2 millions if you're looking in certain neighborhoods. And you know what? On that note, let's go back to Cedar Park real quick. I forgot to tell you about the pricing there. So if you wanna buy a home in Cedar Park, you're gonna wanna probably spend around $450,000 to $700,000. And the reason for that price jump from Leander is just that Cedar Park is that much closer to Austin. So the location, I would argue, is significantly better. But let's dig in and let's take a closer look at Leander. All right. So couple neighborhoods that stick out to me that a lot of our clients really like in Leander. The first one is Treviso. Where are you, Treviso? So Treviso is great. Treviso is a giant like luxury master plan community. I say that, they kind of have something for everybody. Like you can probably find a home for like $500,000 or $600,000 in Treviso, built by some of our favorite builders, by the way. But they also have some like signature really luxury homes where you can get easily into the 2 millions in that neighborhood. They've got a lot of great amenities, and it's a really, really great neighborhood. Okay, another neighborhood that I really like a lot is called Crystal Falls, okay? So Crystal Falls, great neighborhood, great luxury homes. You can probably find a home there from like, the 600 to 900,000s, but they have a really great golf course. So one of our insurance agents that we love to work with, Patrick, I love you, he invites me out there every now and then. He lives on the golf course to play golf, and it is like my opportunity to play in the nicest golf course that I get a chance to play on. All right, so I love Treviso, I love Crystal Falls. Actually, let's try and take you into Treviso just a little bit. All right, I'm picking a random spot. Okay. Okay, there we go. Okay, so these are like very typical homes in the Treviso area. You can see nice suburban homes, again, built by some of our favorite builders, decent sized lots, very decent sized houses. So again, like this is very typical for the homes that you're gonna see in that Treviso area, all right? All right, now we're gonna head straight east and we are gonna hit a town that is very close to my heart called Round Rock, okay? So I would say of all the North Austin suburbs, Round Rock is probably the one that is the most established, that has the most kind of premier established master plan communities. Anywhere you're living in Round Rock, you're gonna have super easy access, first off to great schools, great shopping, sports, as well as just like major employers like Dell Computers, Dell Industries, I don't know what they're called now, but it's kind of all like wrapped into one. So again, I think a lot of different people would love Round Rock. I've helped single people, I've helped elderly people, I've helped families, growing families, empty nesters, like I've helped all sorts of people move into Round Rock over the last 11 years. And I would say like a common theme with the people that my team has helped move out there they're people who want more affordable prices than Austin, but they still really appreciate what Austin has to offer, but they want close-knit community. And to be honest with you, a lot of them are really into sports. So Round Rock has all these crazy sports complexes. There's kind of just something for everybody. And like, honestly, we did a video out in Round Rock recently, like a full vlog tour. You should check it out right here. But every time I go to Round Rock, I am shocked at how easily I forget how great their downtown is, how many great local options there are for like dining, shopping, coffee shops, cafes, bars, things like that, and just how many great parks there are. Now, I'd say a couple pros about Round Rock are number one, again, the great schools. Y'all, like North Austin has an embarrassment of riches when it comes to schools. So Round Rock and Leander ISDs are two of the top 5 school districts in all of greater Central Texas, according to niche.com. And that is wild considering like how affordable, relatively speaking, the homes are in these areas. And on that note, I would say another huge positive is the affordable home prices relative to Austin, and combined with the amenities that you can get in that area, like are just like mind-blowing, okay? Now, a couple cons are number one, very similar to Leander where you kind of have to go in and out of 183. In Round Rock, you kind of have to go in and out of I-35 to get in and out of Austin, unless you want to take these toll roads, which is totally what I would do. But living in Round Rock, I-35 is just, it's kind of going to be a part of your life. So you need to let us know if you're interested in Round Rock so that we can point you in the right location, because there are even spots in Round Rock that can affect your commute by literally by 20 minutes, just depending on where you live in Round Rock and where you live in the neighborhood. Now, in terms of home prices in Round Rock, the typical home, and I would say that's probably a 4-bedroom, 2 or 3.5 bath, 2,300 square feet, built in the early to mid 2000s, is going to cost you around $400,000 to $600,000. And a pro tip about Round Rock, like I mentioned earlier, you are going to want to visit downtown Round Rock. It is so charming. You got Lamppost Coffee, you got bars, you got Round Rock Donuts. There's a great Cajun restaurant, a great Italian restaurant. Like, I'm serious, watch our video about Round Rock, and if you're not charmed, I think you do not have a pulse. All right, now let's look at a couple of neighborhoods in Round Rock. All right, one neighborhood I really like a lot on the eastern side of Round Rock is called Paloma Lake, okay? This is a neighborhood where they're not really building in Paloma Lake anymore, but most of what you can find there is relatively new. So you can get relatively new homes, great amenities, neighbors that like are very involved in each other's lives. Like whenever my team has been out there to help people look at homes, or when I've been out there to film, there are just people walking around, kids riding their bikes. It is totally safe, and it's kind of like a kid's dream world, honestly. Two more neighborhoods that I would consider if I were moving to Round Rock are Cat Hollow and Barron's Ranch. Okay, so these are neighborhoods that are a little bit older, they're a bit more established. These are kind of like the marquee master plan communities of Round Rock. A lot of the homes were built in the 80s and 90s, and when a lot of people here in Austin like think about Round Rock, what they're visualizing are neighborhoods like Barron's Ranch and Cat Hollow. Bigger homes, much bigger lots, again, great amenities, like you guys know the drill at this point, okay? Like what you're going to get in North Austin in general are great master plan communities with great amenities and great schools. And I would say these are probably the two biggest marquee neighborhoods like that in all of North Austin that are established and not being built out anymore. Quick plug or like honorable mention, this is not a neighborhood, but Old Settlers Park in Kalahari Indoor Water Park, and Dell Diamond is like right up here where the Round Rock Express play. So the Round Rock Express is like the feeder team to the Texas Rangers baseball team. The tickets are very cheap and you will provide your kids with an experience that they will remember forever. Kalahari Indoor Water Park is, I believe it's the biggest indoor water park in the United States. And then Old Settlers Park is just an amazing park. They've got a sports complex, sports fields, soccer fields, a cricket field. Is that what you call it? Cricket field. And just lots of space where your kids can just run feral and run free. It's amazing. All right, I'm gonna be honest with you right now. This next suburb we're gonna talk about, if I were moving my family outside of the city of Austin, which I do not plan to do, but if I were, this is the suburb, this is the area where I would move without question, and that is none other than Georgetown. I freaking love Georgetown, and I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say I think Georgetown is as cool as Austin. I actually think it offers some things that Austin does not, and it is lacking some things that Austin has. Let's be fair, okay? So one of the reasons I love Georgetown so much is I love their like nice, big, historic, quintessential downtown, okay? So it is just like littered with like super charm. It's like what people think of when they think about historic Texas downtowns. It is just littered with like local, again, boutiques, shops, retail, restaurants, coffee shops, bars. Like honestly, I feel like downtown Georgetown, I was there at night recently, and it reminded me of what I bet 6th Street in Austin was like in like the 60s, 70s, maybe the early 80s, but like very family friendly. Like there were people walking around with their kids, there were musicians at every corner, like music coming out of these bars, like live music, people just laughing, having a good time, and I was like, oh, that's so great. And the San Gabriel River runs right through the middle of town, and it is absolutely quintessential, absolutely gorgeous. So to me, probably the biggest pro about Georgetown is that downtown, but another pro is like, used to, a lot of people thought about Georgetown because Sun City is a part of Georgetown, and Sun City is like a humongous master plan, like retirement community. And a lot of people historically have thought of Georgetown as just an old person area, like a retirement community. It's totally not. However, because it does have a few really great established retirement communities, you get like the benefits of being in a town with a lot of people who are retirement age, who have a lot of time on their hands. So like a lot of the public spaces are super well maintained, they're very well manicured, and so much of Georgetown is just beautiful, and the people there just, they really give a crap. So you do not want to go to Georgetown and trash it. Like you are going to get run out of town. Like if you are someone who really takes care of your space, you take care of your property, you want it to look beautiful and you want to contribute to the beauty of an area, I bet Georgetown is going to be a pretty darn good fit for you. Another thing that we love about Georgetown is Lake Georgetown. We actually were out there recently and we saw a guy windsurfing and we took some cool drone footage of him. My wife literally went this past weekend for a 3-day hiking trip. It was like 27 miles around Lake Georgetown. And she was with some girlfriends of hers and she was showing me pictures and I was like, this is crazy. Like, you look like you're in Lebanon in a good way. So I will say a con of Georgetown is if you're working in Austin, especially if you're working in downtown Austin or even South Austin, your commute in and out of town, even if you use 130 or 45, is probably going to be pretty terrible. So I always say Georgetown is perfect for people who either work non-orthodox business hours, or you love being in the car and you got a lot of audiobooks and podcasts. I'm a big podcast listener. Or you work remotely, or you only have to go into the office for like a day or two out of the week. But the people who live in Georgetown, by and large, absolutely love it. But don't think you're gonna be in Georgetown with like 1 foot in Austin all the time. Like, you're gonna hate your life. If you're gonna be in Georgetown, like, be a Georgetonian. Georgetonian? Now, typical home prices in Georgetown range anywhere from, I'd say, $375,000 on the low end to $550,000 on the high end. And there's a really good mix in Georgetown of like old historic homes and brand new master plan communities and everything in between. Now let's talk about a couple of my favorite neighborhoods in Georgetown. Let's zoom ourselves in here to where we can actually see some neighborhoods. All right, a few of my favorite neighborhoods in Georgetown. One of them is called Cimarron Hills. Like, the homes in this neighborhood are just like a different caliber. Okay, we went out there recently and I was like, whoa, like there are some baller houses out there. There is a golf club, it's a country club in the golf course. I can't remember who it was designed by. Jack Nicklaus, I wanna say. I think it was Jack Nicklaus. I gave my film guy Aaron a hard time because he didn't know who Jack Nicklaus was. He's like the greatest golfer of all time, maybe tied with Tiger Woods, I don't know. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. But great amenities, tennis courts, swimming pools, a great world-class golf course out in Cimarron Hills. I mean, freaking A, like, I don't know what else to say. It's a really beautiful neighborhood. Another neighborhood I really like a lot is called Berry Creek. It's right next to Sun City, so Berry Creek is super peaceful, very, very chill. I think of it, there's also a great golf course out there. I think of Berry Creek as like a more affordable version of Cimarron Hills, okay? Okay, and another neighborhood that I love, it's a newer neighborhood down here. It's not labeled, but trust me, it's right inside my circle. It's called Wolf Ranch. And so Wolf Ranch is a new neighborhood. I was actually just there last week. We recently did a video highlighting Wolf Ranch. Some of my absolute favorite builders are out there. They actually won Austin Business Journal's #1 community in Austin in 2024. And in 2025, they won an award for the #1 best amenity in all of the Austin area, and that is their amenity center. They actually have 2 world-class amenity centers with like a resort-style pool, pickleball courts, like there's all sorts of stuff that they have out there. And like, when I was driving around, you know, Wolf Ranch, our team has helped people buy homes there before, but it's been a while since I've been out there myself, and I was just like stunned. I was like, this is beautiful. One of the really cool things about Wolf Ranch is that their developer there did a really good job of preserving as many trees as they possibly could. And so a lot of these neighborhoods are just like scorched earth and just like, they cut down all the trees. But in Wolf Ranch, they kept as many trees as they could, and it's obvious, and it is absolutely gorgeous. My kids would be obsessed with living there. So if I were to move there, I would probably move to Wolf Ranch. Now, another neighborhood I really like a lot, where part of it is in Georgetown, is this neighborhood right here called Santa Rita Ranch. I didn't mention it in the Georgetown portion of this video because most of Santa Rita Ranch is in a suburb called Liberty Hill. Speaking of which, that's the area we're gonna talk about next, okay? So Liberty Hill is awesome, and it's probably like what I would consider the farthest northwest suburb of Austin. And it for the most part, Liberty Hill is kind of like seen as like a rural suburb with a lot of great growing neighborhoods. A lot of the lots out there, you have options to get pretty darn generous sized lots. And it's Liberty Hill is part of Liberty Hill ISD, and I would say historically it hasn't been seen as one of the premier school districts in the Austin area. However, things are changing, and according to niche.com, it's definitely on the rise, and according to my clients' experience, it's definitely on the rise. They really care a lot about sports at Liberty Hill, okay? So for me, I would say, in my experience, Liberty Hill is gonna be perfect for people, for families who like want a little bit more land, they want some privacy, and they kind of just want like a slower pace of life with like strong schools, okay? So I would say a couple pros about Liberty Hill, not to beat this dead horse, but like the schools are really gaining momentum, and there are lots of areas out there that are just very scenic. They're very beautiful. There's like a lot of elevation, whereas like Round Rock is mostly flat, and I would not say that there's like tons of natural beauty apart from the parks in Round Rock. But Liberty Hill, very, very different story. Now, there's no two ways about it. If Leander is a bad commute to Austin, and look where Leander is. Leander's closer to Austin. If Leander's a bad commute to Austin, Liberty Hill is a hellacious commute to Austin, let's say. It's absolutely terrible. So like if you're wanting to be convenient to Austin, don't move to Liberty Hill. But if you don't mind, like you just kind of want to be touching distance just in case you ever want to go down there on the off chance, Liberty Hill can be a really great option for you. Also, there's a lot of residential development in Liberty Hill, but I don't see a lot of commercial development in Liberty Hill. So you're gonna be limited on like your dining and your shopping options out there. If you really want close amenities, super convenient, you're gonna wanna be in an area like Georgetown, Leander, or Round Rock. Now, in terms of home prices in Leander, you're gonna be looking at around $350,000 on the lower end and $550,000 on the higher end. The wild card here is the lot sizes. So I mean, if you're gonna wanna be in like a acre lot, well then your home price is gonna be a heck of a lot higher, all right? So another positive about Leander is that there's a lot of, there's kind of something for everybody, right? You want a big house on a small lot, you want a big house on a large lot, you want a small house on a large lot, like all different sorts of ways we can kind of modulate this and get you exactly what you're looking for. So if that sounds interesting, you have got to reach out to us, okay? Our phone number is right down here. You gotta reach out, and our team would love to help you identify like the absolute perfect setup in any of these suburbs, okay? But you have to reach out. You know, in the one neighborhood, I already mentioned it, that I have to call out here in Liberty Hill is Santa Rita Ranch. Like, come on, freaking Santa Rita Ranch is the #1 fastest growing master plan community in all of Austin. I believe it's the 4th fastest growing master plan community in Texas, and I think it's the 14th biggest master plan community or fastest growing master plan community in all of the United States, which is like, United States is like the capital of master plan communities. So premier, great amenities. I think they've got 4 amenity centers. They're building a 5th and they're planning a 6th, all right? So like, it's just insane what you get out there at Santa Rita Ranch. In fact, one of my team members, Glenda, was out at Santa Rita Ranch today. She might even be out there right now with some clients who reached out to us from YouTube. They're sitting there just like you. They saw one of our videos about Santa Rita Ranch and they're like, boom, that's our spot. And we're getting out there and we're gonna get them a great home, I hope, all right? If you're watching this, you know who you are. Okay, one of the last communities, one of the last areas that we're gonna talk about in North Austin is right here in Northeast Austin, and it's called Pflugerville. Okay, so here's the thing. Pflugerville actually reminds me a little bit of Cedar Park, in the way that you're driving, you know, north out of on I-35 out of Austin, and usually like you hit Pflugerville and you're like, wait, what? We're in Pflugerville? Like, I thought we were in Austin. Same thing with Cedar Park. The difference between Pflugerville and Cedar Park is Pflugerville does have an identifiable downtown central core, and it's really cool. Like, I had no idea. I did have an idea, I'm lying. But I went out to go film a video there recently, and Aaron and I were like, what the freak, man? Like, Pflugerville's kind of awesome. Like, they have a really cool little coffee shop downtown. There's a couple bars, there's a brewery, there's a tap room. And we're like, bro, like, this is really kind of cool. And so the nightlife in Pflugerville is growing. And I would say that's a major con, especially like considering the last 15, 20 years as Pflugerville has exploded in growth. There really hasn't been anything like that until very recently. Now, here's the thing about Pflugerville. Even though, as you can see in the map here, it is a lot closer, well, it's closer to Austin than like a Round Rock, a Georgetown. The home prices in Pflugerville are actually often cheaper than those areas that are further out. And so that's a pro, don't get me wrong. You also have really easy access to that I-30 toll road and 45. So like a lot of really great, easy ways to get around. So you might be just like, well, why is it cheaper then? I would say, I keep saying this, but historically, Pflugerville has been a little rough, honestly. It's changing, but it's been a little rough. The crime has been a little bit more. People don't take as good a care of their stuff. And for those of you who live in Pflugerville watching this, I'm sorry, I'm just telling you the truth. That's been my observation and the observation of my clients over the last several years. Now that is changing, okay? But one reason that I think Pflugerville prices remain somewhat suppressed is the school system. And that's not my opinion, that's the opinion of the internet, my clients, niche.com. Like the schools in Pflugerville, they do have some good schools, but most of the schools in Pflugerville, I would just say are not keeping up with the areas around them, like, definitely not Leander ISD, Round Rock ISD, or even Georgetown ISD. And so I think someday when Pflugerville figures out how to make their schools world-class like these others, the prices in Pflugerville are going to go nuclear. I'm telling you that right now. You heard it first. But I would say, like, Pflugerville in general just isn't as attractive as Georgetown, Liberty Hill, even Leander, or even places like Round Rock, straight to the north. There's just a lot of like huge suburban sprawl. Now, there are definitely some parks. There's like Lake Pflugerville Park, which is fine, but you're mostly gonna see massive suburban sprawl. Not as many parks, not as much like nature kind of integrated into life there, okay? Now, if you're thinking about moving to Pflugerville, you're probably gonna wanna spend somewhere around $375 to $500. There's a lot of factors at play there. Did I say $500? Maybe $500,000. And definitely some of the newer, nicer homes can go well above $500,000, okay? So on that note, let's look at a couple neighborhoods in Pflugerville. Okay, so one of the neighborhoods in Pflugerville that everyone's been talking about forever, is called Black Hawk, okay? And it's right over here. It's a humongoid neighborhood right over here in eastern Pflugerville. This Fairways of Black Hawk is a really nice golf course over there in Pflugerville. You do not get to be a member of Black Hawk Country Club or whatever golf course, even if you live in the neighborhood, so you do have to pay for it. Sorry, wah wah. However, in Black Hawk, like they started building there in the 90s and they are still building there and they're still gonna be building there for a really long time. So I think in Black Hawk, there's a huge variety of homes. Like you can go old, you can go brand new, you can go small, you can go big, you can go right on the golf course, you can go away from the golf course. So I think, again, common theme here, I think there are a lot of options for a lot of different types of people in Black Hawk. Another neighborhood in Pflugerville, and is a little bit cheating because I think most of this neighborhood is actually in the city of Austin. But if you look at this area, Wells Branch, there are quite a few addresses in Wells Branch that are, it's a Pflugerville address. You're definitely zoned to Pflugerville ISD, and Wells Branch is a place where a lot of people have gone. It's kind of like the last bastion of affordability that's like either literally in the city of Austin or like touching distance to the city of Austin. And so to live in Wells Branch, you're probably gonna wanna spend anywhere from like $450,000 to $650,000, depending on a lot of different things. But great parks, super family friendly. You got old people, you got young people, you got empty nesters, you got the whole thing. Like, lots of different types of people live in Wells Branch, and I'm telling you, like, every single person my team has ever helped move into Wells Branch is like totally obsessed with it, and they usually end up moving again, like inside of Wells Branch. That's how much they love it. Okay, a couple of areas that I'm not even gonna dive like super deep into, but it's just a little bit of a bonus. And if I were considering moving to the North Austin area, I would at least want to know about these areas, because they are kind of punching a little bit above their weight, if you know what I mean by that. One of those areas is called Hutto, and this is an area that, like, I swear I vividly remember Hutto just being a farm. It was just farmland, okay? But it's quickly gotten to be one of the fastest growing areas in Austin. Now, it's east of Pflugerville, and so your commute time is probably gonna be god awful, but what you're gonna get is really affordable housing. The high school mascot is actually the Hutto Hippos, and I absolutely love that. I just think it's really cool. And so Hutto is like kind of becoming this like interesting, quirky area where like a lot of people are moving for like extreme affordability, again, relative to the rest of Austin. So you can get into Hutto for about $325,000. And honestly, like, I've rarely seen a home in Hutto over $500,000. I actually don't even know if I've ever seen one that was for sale. Now, one interesting thing about Hutto is there's like this secret back road called 1660. I can't believe I'm sharing this on the internet, on YouTube. People in Hutto are gonna come like egg my house tonight. But there's this road called 1660 that the people in Hutto do not want you to know about. I'm not even gonna show you on the map right now, okay? I don't wanna get in too much trouble. But it is a road that can really get you around some traffic. Like, it's even better than 130, okay? But that's it, I can't tell you anymore. Now, one last area I wanna show you in North Austin is called Taylor. Now, Taylor is so interesting. Hot take, I actually don't consider this to be part of Austin or even the greater Austin area at all. Similar to Georgetown, I would say if you're gonna move to Taylor, you gotta be in Taylor. Do not say you live in the Austin area. Do not say you live in Austin. Don't even say you live in an Austin suburb. You live in Taylor, and you need to do your life in Taylor, or else you're gonna hate your life. So the commute between Taylor and Austin is gonna be at least 45 minutes on a really, really, really good day. On a bad traffic day, you're talking an hour and a half to 2 hours in the car, one way. So I'd say Taylor is good for people who are like, you're kind of betting on the upside of Taylor. And you're kind of making like a long-term investment, because a lot of people think that Taylor is gonna be blowing up in like the next decade or so. It already has grown a lot in popularity. They also have a really great historic quintessential Texas downtown, but a lot of people think that it's gonna go nuclear in the next 5 to 10 years. It's a little bit less polished. It's a little bit more of like an industrial feel, but then certain pockets of it are like honestly super cute. And you can get a great house in the Taylor area for around like $300,000 to $450,000. There's a good mix of kind of newer, what's the word, cookie cutter, like subdivisions, and there's also some really old historic, old homes just with a lot of historic charm. There's a really great barbecue place there called Louis Mueller Barbecue, and honestly, I don't even know if the door has a sign. Like, most people walk right past it and don't realize that they missed like one of the best barbecue restaurants of all time. So if you're in the Taylor area, you definitely want to check out some barbecue. So if you're like, I don't know if North Austin is right for me, how does it compare to South Austin? Check out our South Austin full map tour right here. And if you want to do a deeper dive into any of these suburbs that we mentioned, check out our playlist of full suburb vlog tours right here.